not want to lose these guys, especially Sperling. You do not want to lose to Sperling.
Nobody does. All right. It sounds like our players are ready, so let's take it down to the draft. Whoa! And we have some. So you don't get to all the success Luis has gotten to and not run a little above average.
Yeah. Hashtag whitelisted.
Of very interesting note here, he has to pass some hot ones. Trial of Solidarity, considered, I don't know about you guys, but it was considered in our house to be, by a significant margin, the best uncommon, better than all but the very best rares, of which Glorybringer was certainly one.
Yeah, so I have it in the top tier. I have White Trial and Red Trial as the two best uncommons. You can debate which one is better. Glorybringer is definitely a cut above them, along with maybe 5 or 6 other cards. The cool thing about Team Draft is, if this was an 8-man, we'd look and say, okay, you get Glorybringer, we'd stop analyzing. But now, what matters almost as much is what are you passing left, right?
Yep.
So
passing, you took that quick.
He took it's a Glorybringer.
So I saw Hieroglyphic. I'm looking at cards that might come back out of that pack. I saw Hieroglyphic Illumination. I saw Blue Cartouche. Those Who Serve. The pack was 4 white cards deep. So he's sure to get a white creature back out of it.
So obviously passing to Paul here too, with noting. Just to keep in mind of who's where. Paul there probably gonna take the white cartouche. So Luis here, red white, a fantastic archetype, could easily look to move in and cut him.
Yep.
So Dirtle Luis here is gonna take Enigma Drake. This is we put the test very early to see where is his head at. I don't know. What would you do? What do you think the best card is here? If this is an 8-man, what are you taking?
Enigma Drake's definitely one of the strongest cards in the pack, and certainly like a good archetype. Like if I take first pick a red card, my preference is to be red blue or red white. So basically here I'm looking at Enigma Drake versus White Cartouche. Having just passed a pack with a bunch of great white cards and where the best card by far is White Trial, I think you have to think hard about taking the White Cartouche, setting yourself up to be in the best color combination, and potentially cutting Paul in white behind you.
Sure, that is reasonable. I mean, I think it leaves Paul open to take either a red, black, or green card. He can go a couple of directions.
Don't you want him to take a red card?
Ideally, certainly. If you knew that Paul's going to take a red card here, interesting, harsh mentor.
Okay, so he's maximizing his percentage chance of playing his Glorybringer, I think, at this point. And also, I'm quick to, one thing I didn't get to mention when I was watching Luis drafts, he did not seem to place the emphasis on 2-drops that I do, but this pick certainly suggests something different.
Again, I think you're seeing that from Luis when he's drafting for fun. When you're drafting to win, in this form especially, Luis is taking the 2-drops. He understands. But I think out of that pack, Paul could easily take White Cartouche there. It depends really on the color of Paul's first pick. So Luis doesn't have him quite on the hook yet. And this pack here offers no white cards. So Paul was certainly going to take a black card out of this pack, right? Because Luis here's obviously taking Ember and Minotaur.
Yep, for sure. Passing Decimator is the best card in the pack. Don't know how well set up, how much green we've passed. I don't remember any particularly good green cards.
Nothing really. Yeah.
But somebody's going to snatch that up and move in.
My guess is Paul there takes the Cursed Minotaur, but it depends really on what he took what he first picked. If he first picked a black or green card, maybe he takes the Decimator Beetle. There's also some chance, I think in Team Draft, Trial of Solidarity is worse than it is in an 8-man, because you're not going to get all these cheap creatures. People are going to be taking them from you aggressively. So maybe Paul didn't even take that Trial second and passed it on and took something else, and some were completely different.
Do you think Pathmaker here, based on the Harsh Mentor pick? Yeah. One thing Luis is doing here is the same thing that I was able to do in my draft, which is stay monocolor, which I've heard more and more people. I mean, obviously, if you can be, it's great, but paying some cost to stay monocolor early really lets you find your spot later on and fill. And I mean, that's what I was trying to do in my last draft, and it just ended up that because the packs fell the way they did, I only ended up taking cards of one color. The color that filled me out was the color I was already taking, but I was ready to move in anywhere, and Luis is putting himself in the same spot.
So I think it's interesting that both this format rewards being monocolor late, because again, you open the best cards are so much better than everything else that I love being able just to take whatever bomb I open in pack 2, and then team drafting rewards. Oh wow, Luis going for Synchronized Strike here. Interesting.
Very interesting. That was a very powerful card. A little bit stronger in green white. That's its natural home, but green red is next best.
And now no red card here. That has to be a little concerning for Luis, especially because red is the deepest color. So you would expect there to be some red cards trickling through, but Dave knows he's passed a lot of red. He's passed other stuff too, but he could easily have just moved into red behind.
Yeah, the red he passed wasn't like particularly exciting. Like Emberhorn Minotaur was the best card he passed. So
sure, but those packs, I mean, didn't have cards of other colors either. So I mean, if I'm Dave, I'm biasing a little bit in that direction. So if I'm Luis here, I'm like a little bit nervous. Maybe you're thinking, okay, what happens if red is cut? Am I going to force play this Glorybringer? Because you've also set up Paul to your left to be red. So you could be sandwiched now between two red drafters, which is the worst place to be. I don't mind being red if the guy to my right is, because in pack 2, I cut him.
Yep. So it took those who serve. Luis might be thinking about, so the Synchronized Strike was a little bit on spec. He's going to want to get, there's definitely going to be white coming back. Like if the packs are going to be thin, he knows he's going to see white later, even if other people took white cards. So he might be, this might be a hedge. Also, again, like Boros is just the best, the most consistently good archetype. So what about this pack?
I do think there's a decent chance that Paul to his left is white-black. So Paul there getting a wayward, the 2/2 gold zombie out of that pack. But Luis taking a white card to make sure that he doesn't give Paul 2 open colors, I think is important. I like that pick a lot.
The blue cards that we're seeing are somewhat suggestive of nobody being in red-blue spells. I know we saw an Enigma Drake earlier. You can't really expect that to come back, but we're seeing Hieroglyphic Illuminations. We're seeing Winds of Rebukes. These are cards that are great in the red-blue deck. I wonder if that's something. Whoa, pretty aggressive Limits of Solidarity. A good card that I was kind of up on coming into the format and haven't actually seen do much. Like Cycling on a Threaten seems great, but it's just so matchup dependent.
I agree with that statement. I think that pack was pretty weak, and I like Luis. If he's worried that red's going to get a little pinched, but he doesn't want to give up on Glorybringer, if he's committed to playing Glorybringer, you need to fill out your deck with some solid playables there. So I think that was a fine pick.
So this is our original pack. Did all the blue come back? Is that like there was a bunch of solid blue, and everything blue card that I might table came back. 3 white cards got taken. Only the weakest white card came back. So if you're going into white here,
I agree with you.
Yes. I think the spot is you can take the 2-drop and hedge, but I think I would just move into blue here, honestly. I think that's what's clearly open, and that's what's going to pay him off the most. And if any of that other blue stuff comes back...
Oh, man, the Enigma Drake came back. If Luis had just taken blue cartouche there or Hieroglyphic Illumination, he'd be set up here. And instead now he has to take this Enigma Drake. Well, that's not a bad spot to be. He knows that he's right, not going to move in.
Well, so he also has this Synchronized Strike. Ronus Monument, if you can consistently be front foot, is a good card. You really need a lot of 2-drops, and Luis, went under on them so far this pack, I would say, from where I would want to be. But it's a very powerful card when you can make it work.
So I think it's unlikely that Paul is red-blue, because the way in which the packs that had the blue cards, it's hard for him to take them there. So I think Enigma Drake might be a safe pass through to Ben, but I would take it there. I think red-blue seems wide open. And it's where Luis probably should be. Yeah, and he hasn't missed out on that much.
Oh, you took Reduce over Compelling Argument there. I think that's a close pick.
I like Compelling Argument there personally.
Yeah, Reduce is a pretty underpowered no matter what you do with it.
I like that pick there too.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So I think here we're seeing this pack also had a couple blue cards in it. We're seeing Weaver of Currents tabling. So remember, probably no green-blue drafters. Yeah, I hate the white trick from Paul for sure there.
Yeah. So of note, there was a Merciless Javenier in this draft that died somewhere. So you somebody's trying to be red-black most likely. Although that's a splashable card.
It was probably pretty early too. That was his opening pack that had that in the white trial. I think the Javenier is probably the second best card he was passing. So my guess is, if Paul first picked a blacker card, he could potentially have taken that. Otherwise, Ben or Matt almost certainly has that to his left.
Yeah, if Paul didn't first pick a black or red card, I would expect him to have taken white trial.
Yep, I agree. And the fact that the Enigma Drake didn't get snapped up in the first orbit. Sorry, what's that?
Yeah, no, I was going to say, if he took a black and red card and Luis's team got Glorybringer white trial out of that pack, that was a great pack for them.
Agreed. Big win for them there. But so I think the fact that Enigma Drake tabled means no one was set up to be red-blue in the first orbit, which is a really good sign for Luis moving into that color pair. It also means that the blue cards probably didn't find good homes to his left, because if you were blue early in the draft, you snap off Enigma Drake. That card's so powerful.
Right. No, the blue card's just scattered around a little bit. Somebody's got Illuminations. There's winds, a couple of wins around, but...
So my guess from pack 1, feeling it out, Dave to his right, I think, is probably red.
Real quick, he's clearly taking Electrify here.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, so I think it's more genetic to figure out what's happening around him than trying to worry about that pick. Because that's what Luis is thinking. He's thinking, okay, to my right, what's Dave in? My guess is red-green. But there's a chance we didn't see a lot of black. It could be red-black as well. So passing that, stir the sands there. Maybe ends up in Dave's deck. Maybe it doesn't. I'm a little nervous about that.
Yeah, you didn't see any powerful black uncommons. Didn't see a black cartouche or a final reward. Yeah.
We saw black trial, but that was like second pick. That was the only black.
We know Dave's not blue. Those like illuminations and stuff were like way too late. Like we're very confident about that.
The only person that could be blue, I think, is Ben, based on the depth of the blue we saw. And even that, I think Ben would fourth pick Enigma Drake, right? Like, you're not passing that. So I think it's impossible that anyone was default blue until we saw that one pack with all the blue cards come back through.
Pretty unfortunate pack for Luis. Here you take True Art Trends, fine card, but you don't really want to be taking 5-drops, replaceable 5-drops, which that guy basically is this early in the draft. That guy excels in red-white only. Everywhere else, he's like a 5-drop.
Red-green as well. Oh, he's quite good red-green because you have Hooded Brawler and you have Bitterblade Warrior 2 to trigger him.
Sure, he's solid in red-green, but since you're not going wide as much, the power pumping is, I think, you know.
I certainly don't want to be second picking a 5-drop, right? Like, you want your low curves.
Well, yeah, it needs to have a better rarity symbol than that, certainly.
Yes. It needs to match the one he already has above it. Oh, geez. And now another pack where
medium red for days.
So first test here for Luis. Is he taking Red Crop's Spearmaster, the Vizier of the Tumbling Sands, or another True Heart Twins?
It's just so... Oh, man, I don't even know. And True Heart Twins is definitely better than Ceradon?
I think so. I really don't like playing Ceradon in my decks at this point. I think you flood too much from the cycling.
Yeah, and you're fighting with, like, it's best in red-black with Wanderer of Death, and there's a red-black deck out there. Like, or you don't know, but, you know, there's a Merciless Javenier that somebody took in the first cycle, so...
Just taking another twin, staying open. I don't mind this. I mean, I don't really want to play 3 5-drops in my red deck, so I might have just taken a speculation pick there. But I think there's a decent chance Dave's red.
Oh, I'm looking at this Hazard Monument that he picked up that he's fiddling around with. I think he's looking to play that at this point. With
Wayward Servant. Interesting. So Wayward Servant getting through suggests Paul is not white-black.
Right. So one tabled pack 1, right, and then went through. So nobody had declared zombies. It tabled, went somebody where. So there could be a zombies player somewhere to the right.
I think
like further to the right. Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah. But if Ben or somebody on the other side of the draft is zombies, that's a really dangerous card to have out there. And it's worth noting, so I first picked Liliana's Mastery in my draft last week, and then second pick Synchronized Strike, which doesn't go with it at all. Mm-hmm. And then the interesting pick of the draft was a third pick, where I had the option of a second Synchronized Strike or a Binding Mummy. So I was basically setting myself, if you're really likely to play 2 of my first 3 picks, but not both. I went with the Synchronized Strike because I figured zombies would suffer a lot. It's a good archetype, but I figured it would suffer a lot in a 6-man, as there's just a lot less of that stuff that you get super cheap for free, since everybody's going to be snatching up the creatures to fill out their deck.
100% agree. The synergy decks are much harder to draft in this because the linear strategies get disrupted. People just hate random cards from you. And only 6 packs are open, so you're not
you don't get the variance of there being like 3 Lord of the Accursed in the draft or whatever.
Exactly. Also, you just don't get random like 7th pick like Miastic Mummy because no one really wanted it, right? There's fewer copies opened, and those tend to go late. So I think it really hurts. Zombie specifically, I think, is at its worst in this format relative to a normal 8-man draft. I think it's a really important thing to note. Although Blue Red Spells, another could also hurt.
So he took an Essence Scatter, and then he got past a Cryptic Serpent. And it's really sad for him that his blue-red deck is not going well enough that he can take that Cryptic Serpent, and he had to take a 3-drop. That is, I think, not a good sign.
But even taking that Sentinels over, I would have taken Tormenting Voice there for sure. Isn't Tormenting Voice way better in this deck?
Well, so the question, I think it's a hedge. He's like thinking, I think Luis is thinking he's blue-red, but he's not really blue-red spells. Like, he has this Enigma Drake, but he doesn't have spells, and he doesn't have, necessarily a lot of payoffs, and he has all these, like, big clunky creatures that you don't want in your blue-red spells deck.
Well, isn't Tormenting Voice perfect for that, right? You get to dig for extra lands when you need them. You can discard your 5-drop when you don't want it. If you don't play blue, you still play the card. I don't know. I think that was a big miss.
Yeah, I think I might agree with you about the Tormenting Voice. I was a little bit distracted by the Cryptic Serpent because that's the most obvious blue-red spells card, but the only question is if there was another Tormenting Voice that I thought was tabling, but I wasn't paying close enough attention to be tracking if there was one.
I'd be playing, multiple copies of that card in my blue-red decks. I like having 2 or 3.
I think it's also unfortunate for Luis there. It's probably a bad sign that he had to take a pretty medium 2-drop over a cycling land. Cycling lands are really good.
Yeah, I would have taken the cycling there, I think, and just gambled a little bit. I mean, he has he's working out his piles here, but I think he has like some spells. I don't know. I think the Cycling Man there had a lot more upside than a random 2/1. It's because decks will be less aggressive in this format than they are in normal 8-mans. So you don't need to play these marginal 2-drop just to try to trade on turn 2. I didn't like that pick.
So I think this is, so we've got 2-drop versus Ceradon. We have enough of like kind of both of those kinds of things, but I guess that's what we get. Quick fling. I can't imagine Luis is too happy about the way his draft is going at this point.
So I don't know. So his deck,
the draft has not felt overpowered.
Exactly. We haven't passed. It feels bad when you're taking skirmishers and you're passing good green cards, but he's not doing that. He's passing other equally mediocre cards. Like Luis was mono red coming into this pack. He could have gone any direction, and there was no signal to go somewhere else. So it's not that he's getting punished relative to the table average. Just this is a low power draft. That's not such a bad place to be. And maybe that's why Luis is biasing towards these 2-drops. He wants to punish the table. So if it's a lower power draft, decks will be clunkier. Luis can now capitalize on that by having a more aggressive blue-red deck, even if his card quality is lower.
Yeah, I think what Luis needs to hope for is that all these white cards that got tabled, so 3 white cards got taken out of his first pack. I think he needs to hope that those, if they're on the enemy teams, they really got spread out, because this looks to my eye like a deck that would have a really hard time beating. I mean, this is blue red without Magma Spray. This is the exact deck that would have a really hard time beating even a medium white trial deck.
Yeah, I agree. It's going to have a hard time being a white trial deck, but I think that's going to be at most one of your opponents. I think
second Hazy Monument.
I think he's in a fine spot here, actually.
Okay.
This pack, okay. Taking Electrify here. It's not. I think it's a little bit worse on pure quality than Plague Belcher, but not enough that I'm hating in this spot at all.
Yeah, Plague Belcher is good, not great. I mean, that's not a card I'm worried about hating for the most part.
Also, I felt like for Paul to be black, he had to be black-white. And the fact that we got that 2/2 zombie 4th last pack means he's probably not black-white, so he's probably not black. I think Paul is likely red-white. The pack 2 is so strange.
Yeah. No, but we didn't see red. Red-white makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, he's not locked to it. It could be... probably not. Not blue-white, we don't think. So...
Oh, I can't imagine. Although, I mean, again, he got that pack with like the really late blue cards. Paul could have moved in on the first.
Right, but some of that was for the wins, yes, the wins, yes, are great.
Yeah,
the illuminations much less so.
Yeah, he can't really be white blue, and a rare missing here, so we don't learn much.
Ooh, another start finish.
Failed out by his Death Prop Entangler.
From the look of these packs, just seeing what kind of the filler cards are and how good they are. People that are in, whoever's in white-black, I think it's hard for the draft to be going that badly for them. There's just a lot there. It feels like they would, wherever, if they exist, they're getting cards out of every pack.
If both of those 2/2, the Wayward Servants wound up
are in the same deck, that's a 3/0 deck.
Yeah, and it easily could, right? Like, Leafro gets it 7th pick pack 1 and 6th pick pack 2, right. Going each direction, his deck's going to be absurd. And I think he's the most likely person to be in that kind of, it's either Sperling or Ifro getting that deck, and if one of them's there, their decks are really, really good.
Do you remember what pick we saw at Pack 2? It didn't come around again.
Pack 2 is 4. We saw 4th
and it didn't come around again. And you would expect it to if no one's using it, because then everyone would realize that nobody could using it based on it being 8th or whatever, and they'll just keep sending it, and it'll go 12th or whatever. So
wow, Drakehaven here.
Wow, versus Magma Spray.
Take advantage of it, though, really.
No, I think he has to spray. I think he has to spray. It's
that pack is so perfect for him, because Haven and Angler Drake, one of those will table to him at least. So he's going to get a second fantastic card out of this pack. Yeah,
this was a great pack. Man, Angler Drake. Yeah, maybe it is Angler Drake. He has so many big guys, but he needs both. Like Angler Drake and Magma Spray. Either would be great. He needs to catch up from Angler Drake, and he needs
I want the best 2 cards both to be blue, because one of them will come home. If you take a blue card here, easily Spray will not come back ever.
You're correct.
And even to get poached, and then you get and Scavver's not coming back either. You get a way worse second pick out of this pack. I'm taking Spray and hoping I get one of the 2 blue cards.
I agree with you. It's also the card that's going to do the most to make your other cards better. If you want that Enigma Drake to actually do stuff, then you need to be taking Magnum Spray in spots like this.
Also, if you look at this pack, it's a strong pack in other colors, right? The green drafter is not going to hate one of these blue cards. He's going to take the Initiate's Companion. So I think there's a really good chance that a good blue card comes back to at least out of that pack.
Oh, yeah. Another Cryptic Serpent. Versus...
Thresher Lizard here.
Yeah, versus Thresher Lizard for the curve, not taking second Floodwaters. Certainly don't care that much about spells.
I don't know where you guys had Thresher Lizard. We were very high on Thresher Lizard. It's at its worst in blue-red, because your hand isn't empty as easily as like black-red, for instance, or red-white. But I still think it's just a powerful card.
Yeah, we didn't have it very high, but not because it wasn't bad. It was good. It's just that the other, like, Sure Shot is also fine. Like, its value over replacement, it's good, but its value over replacement wasn't so high that it could be a high pick for us. But we liked it. We weren't cutting it.
This is interesting here. I think there's an argument for all three of those blue cards. I think typically Seeker of Insight's the best one in blue-red, but this is an unusual blue-red deck, and I think you could argue that Vizier here is actually better because of all those 5-drops.
Yep. I think this might even be the first Seeker that we've seen in this draft.
I think we've seen one really early in pack 1, but I don't think we did. I think it's the first one.
Yeah, which goes to, I mean, if we added that Drakehaven, that would be a really powerful argument for Seeker. Obviously, we don't. If we're worried about the opposing team having Drakehaven, like we know Dave's not blue pretty much. So probably we don't worry about it. But if we worried about the other team ending up with that Drakehaven, that would be a reasonable point for taking the Seeker. They're so strong together. Oh, here's another Seeker.
Split Agony?
Oh, did that? Oh, wow. That was one of my biggest takeaways from watching the commentary from the last draft was how much higher Ben S was on Splendid Agony than, my team.
I think it's a fine black card, but I think it's like
medium fine black removal. I'm not taking it over like anything worth mentioning. Like
that pick to me is really surprising. I mean, granted, Luis has 24 cards laid out here. He may feel like he's fine with his 24, and he's going to wheel one of those blue cards because there's still 3 there. So he'll take whichever one comes back to him. I think that logic makes a lot of sense, right? He gets whichever one. They're all the same. Hates a card from the other team, but I think he might have been able to get 2 blue cards there. And I think Vizier is so good in his deck with all those Exert 5-drops that I would have taken it. I think Vizier is a significantly above replacement for him. I would have taken it there.
Yeah, it looks like these blue cards are just not getting taken anymore. He might be, for whatever, they're getting spread out the way they did at the end of the first pack. There might have just been nobody that got enough of it to want to be doing it. It honestly looks like you were right, and Luis has moved himself into a perfectly fine position. He's just a blue-red cards deck. He's just blue-red fine cards, and, his deck looks a little weak compared to 8-man drafts, but for a 6-man team draft, this looks totally fine to me. He's still got probably a couple cuts he gets to make. Not bad at all.
Yeah, another good plus for the hating that Splendid Agony is it's so good against Luis, and we think that Paul could very easily. Can Paul be black?
If he's black-white, he's black-white Trial of Solidarity Beatdown, and he's not trying to put Splendid Agony in his deck.
All right, this is what I thought might happen.
So confirmed Luis is the only blue drafter.
Yep.
So he might free roll a couple nice playables at the end of this pack if he's lucky and get to cut a couple more. Like that Fling, if we could get that out of the deck, we'd probably be pretty happy. Limits of Solidarity is pretty unexciting.
We should be able to, I think, here.
Maybe one of the 2-drops.
I think this is pretty normal for this format, too. I mean, you have to remember, in a 6-man draft, the colors are going to be very oddly distributed a lot of the time, and you will frequently have one color be only drafted by one player. Last week, we saw Justin was only green drafter, right, which benefited you, of course. And now we see, I think blue's more likely to be the color that's only drafted by one person, and that's happening here with Luis.
Yeah, I agree. Well, so green, and that was, still the only blue draft. Here's the free rolls I was talking about.
Yeah, here comes the next pack.
Yep. I mean, at this point, any of them could get hated if Paul's, correctly putting Luis on potentially being blue, but it doesn't look like that's what's going on. It sounds to me like people in general are pretty down on green. That was a thing I was aware of going into the last draft, and I'm not as much. Like, I don't think it's one of the best colors, but I don't think it's one of the worst colors. Basically, I think it's in the middle, which is part of my calculus in moving in on green the way I did was hoping it would be undervalued. I was super happy to be able to make the most of that. Ooh, blue trial here. Do you think that's making the deck?
I think so. Sift is a nice card.
Illusory Wrapping is certainly good for the board, at least. Someone's drafting green.
Yeah, I think this turned out really well for Luis. And I think it's overall a pretty low power deck. If he has the black-white drafter on his team, I think they're a huge favorite in this draft with the way things played out.
Yeah, I think whoever has the black-white drafter is a huge favorite.
I don't know. I think Luis's deck is quite strong. I 2 electrifies and a magma spray, good removal. He's a glory bringer. He has some card draw to find it. I think he's a strong contender for having one of the best decks at the table, given that the overall card quality seemed pretty low. And that pack 3 really hooked him up, right? We saw him get Magma Spray, Angler Drake, Vizier, Electrify. He got so many premium cards in that 3rd pack. His deck really came together nicely.
Yeah, the 3rd pack was great for him. He waited out the storm and managed to, he just waited out the other people who were taking any blue cards, if anybody ever was taking them anything more. I mean, honestly, the blue cards we saw the 1st pack were late enough that people might have been taking them over, nothing. Right. Just taking them off the table, and nobody was ever really particularly close to being in blue.
That picking back when it had the Vizier and the Hieroglyphic Illumination in pack 1, like 7th, or when we had tabled Luis's opening pack, it's really hard for someone to Luis is right to be in blue, right? Because you're taking the 5th pick or 6th pick Vizier there. So the only person who's worried about the people directly to his left. And the way pack 2 felt, it didn't seem like anyone in his left was blue either.
Yeah, that first
directly read the draft.
Yeah, that 1st pack. So it was a Merciless Javelineer, and 3 white cards and 1 thing that I can't remember that got taken before it came back to him. I wish I could remember what the other thing was. Probably not a blue card.
No, it was not a blue card. I'm trying to remember. I think it was another white card. This is the one downside to getting older is the team drafting gets a lot harder because it rewards remembering everything, and my brain no longer is quite that sharp.
Yeah, I don't think it was white. I think there were exactly 4 white cards and 1 came back. Must have been black or red, basically.
There was definitely another red playable in the pack.
It's like Thresher Lizard or something, maybe?
Something like that. Yeah, that actually could have even been what it was.
Yeah. Yeah, and certainly based on the end of that last draft, there's not more than 1 green drafter, right? Based on 13 pick Colossopeds and whatnot.
It wasn't 13. He handed that Colossopede relatively early. I think there could easily be 2 green drafters.
I think there was one really late, 2 or 3 cards in the pack.
No, because the pack that had Nishit's Companion also had the green-white 4/4, and neither of those came back, and that was 3rd pick. So if both those go there, unless someone's just randomly hating the green-white 4-drop from someone, that pack was strong. I think there's 2 green drafters.
Good point. All right.
Because the Colossopede was also in a pack that had an Ornery Kudu, and someone may have just taken the cheaper card for curve purposes later in the pack, and then Luis sniped it with 6 cards left. Sure. My guess is there's 2 green drafters.
Yeah, I could be misremembering how late that was. All right, looks like Luis is uninterested in Floodwaters, which is reasonable, it looks to me, given the dispersion of his spells. And let's see, Insider, yeah, that was one of the bad cards. He's not gonna go for the Hazaret artifact. Have you played that, the red one?
I haven't personally. So people on our team liked 1 copy in mono red to mitigate flooding, but outside of that, I think it
has to be good in mono red. I feel like how bad can even the second one be in mono red? Really,
sure, that's fair.
Mono red. But I think so. Sam played it once and reported that it was serviceable, doing what he wanted to do, which I think was the right spot for it. It was a dirtily red black deck with Wander and Death, so he had virtual superfluous creature plays that he was making. But yeah, very reasonable not to play here. He's got plenty of other 3-drops. It's a medium card. He didn't end up with any more, red expensive creatures than he had after the end of the 1st pack. Or at the beginning of the 2nd pack, rather.
And I think if you look at the way the draft shaped up, Luis got pretty unlucky in pack 2. Pack 2 was very weak for him, right? He looked like 2nd and 3rd pick True Heart Twins. Those are not really the cards you want to be getting in that spot. So I think it's his deck came together really nicely. I wonder if his last cut's going to be here.
All right, we're going to take a look at Dave's build here.
What color think he is before we see it? Oh, there we are.
So here's, looks like we've got white, green, and aggro. He's got that 4/4. Ooh, I like the look of his deck. How many? So we've got 4 tricks, cartouche. I don't love impeccable timing in white, green, aggro, but it'll play.
Yep.
It is a 6-man.
2-0 resolve is really nice for those Hooder Brawlers.
Oh yeah. Hoodie B is my boy.
I love a Hoodie B.
Let's see.
He's not main decking the Stinging Shot just because given he might think that there's just no one who really has a lot of flyers.
Well, we know there's only
tabled, the Angler Drake tabled.
Here's the thing. They know there's max one blue drafter based on the way the packs fell. Like everyone in the draft has to know that. And he's one of the white drafters. So we didn't see Gust Walkers. We didn't see 2/2 flyers for 4 out of white. So if those cards aren't getting opened and nobody's blue, then there's not a lot of call to have a Stinging Shot in your main deck. And it's kind of high cost on a white green aggro deck. You want that slot to be a trick.
Absolutely, no, that makes sense. And also, Paul is probably white as well on his team, so you may even know where one of the other white drafters sits. So he's no real need there. Interesting thing here to note: look at Dave's sideboard. 4 copies of Windsor Rebuke. He was hating that card aggressively, right? Like, we were not seeing those.
No, and I like that a lot. Windsor Rebuke has gone up and up and up in my pick order as a very flexible card. So the rule we learned about red blue, the number one rule about red blue is don't not have magma sprays, because that was your way to not get run over by the aggro decks, and that was your way to 2-spell, and it was super important. Windsor Rebuke does a sort of a magma spray impression in that it's like you can fire it off early for not horrendous value, like if you need to. It plays late. It has an effect late. It's actually very flexible. I've used it to be cards like Sandworm Convergence. I've used it to be Planeswalkers, Pacifisms, things of the like. And, if you happen to have Embalm guys, then you're like, you can just get random value off of it.
He just moved Stinging Shot into his deck, just as an aside.
Yeah. But so, if you're drafting an aggro deck and you want to interfere with the other player's ability to disrupt you, taking Windsor Rebuke is like pretty canny. I like that a lot.
So I would be willing to wager that all those blue cards were hate drafts. So people in the chat are speculating maybe Dave switched out of blue, but it's 4 Windsor Rebuke, a Hieroglyphic Illumination, a River Serpent, and a Cryptic Serpent. None of those are cards that put you into blue, right? Those are all cards he's picking off here and there from Luis. I think Dave knew exactly what was going on after Pack 2 and just snapped him off in Pack 3 and really effectively.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree. Like, there's an opening where maybe if he had started white rather than green, he could have, with that Glory Vanisher or whatever, he was maybe thinking about white-blue at some point. Windsor Rebuke is a really good card there because that's the deck that's heaviest on Embalm, and it appreciates the interaction. So there's some outs he was trying to keep that door open, but I agree with you that for the most part, and especially for like the River Serpent and all that stuff that was going on later, both the Serpents, that was just taking cards away from the other team or attempting to. 16 creatures, creature count vital in these aggro decks. That's
when we realize this format is you need a higher creature count than average because there's so many things that trigger off of having creatures in play. You really want 16, 17, 18 creatures in your aggro decks, where I think in other formats you can get by with a couple fewer. People in the chat are asking, why didn't Dave hate that Angler Drake? The reason was because there were 2 blue cards. So the great thing about Luis taking... Ooh, you see switch out. Yeah, I like that change too, cutting the effective timing.
This is exactly what Tom was...
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say this is exactly what you were talking about during the draft about why he made that pick that he did, was just to guarantee it was exactly so that Dave would be in that spot, so that Dave would be in the spot of not being able to take a card away from him later. Dave just had to take probably a medium card for himself and let LSV get a great card back because there was no way for Dave to take both of them.
Yeah, he passed the blocker. So there, Dave hates that blue card. Maybe Paul to Luis's left is also blue. And now all of a sudden, Paul doesn't get the second best blue card. So when there's 2 in the pack, you can't really hate. Really smart by Luis there taking that Magma Spray. Interesting. So open question, where's the white-black deck? Is there a white-black deck? Did those Wayward Servants get to hate drafted? Because that's the kind of card that you can snap off. 6 pick, nothing great for you. Just take it out of the draft pool. I'm curious to see kind of what happened there. My guess is if someone is white-black, it's going to be either Sperling or Ephro, just based on the timing which we saw those Wayward Servants. Also, the fact that we passed the Stir the Sand to the right impact too, and obviously Dave didn't take it, so it's somewhere over there in one of their hands. Really interesting draft though. I'm excited to see the draft viewer.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Oh man. What? So yes. How it's what worked out on the other side of the table. Who ended up with those white black cards? Who? Yeah. I want to watch it right now. I want to see. Man, I'm excited. This is so much fun.
Yeah, this is a great format. And there we go. Decks are submitted. We are moments away from seeing it start playing out.
I don't think that's how it works.
Is it not? Okay.
No, well. I don't believe so. So basically the event fires sort of not the pairings we want necessarily. So what they do is they save their decks, and then we're gonna reload them in a game that we're gonna set up.
Yep. In the custom room. Makes sense. Who do you think? We've now seen 2 decks. We've seen Dave's deck and Luis's. We know a little bit about what's out there. There's a Stir of the Sands that could easily be on Luis's team going over to the right. Some unknown white-black zombies. Who do you think's favored here?
I would be inclined to give the edge to Luis's team based on the decks that I saw. I like Dave's. I think Green White is an underrated archetype. I like it. I'm very willing to draft. I think it's probably the worst white archetype, but White's just so stupidly OP in this format that it's still very good as long as you just draft it as creatures and tricks. You don't even strictly have to do that. I think it's more flexible than people give it credit for. But if you're drafting creatures and tricks, there's just nothing wrong with it. Sure. But I really like to have Dave's a fine shell of that deck, but maybe a little too underpowered, which maybe that's fine in a 6-man, but I really like to have cards like Synchronized Strike in decks like that to really lay down the hurt. And he's got, kind of the right distribution, and his power level's okay, so maybe it'll play out well, but he might come up a little underpowered.
I wonder if he took over the Synchronized Strike in Pack 1, because remember, Luis branched out of red to take it right. 6th, which was kind of late. So Dave at that point was probably white. He didn't have any real red cards in his sideboards. He wasn't trying to draft white-red. I'm curious to see.
He had to take a white card over it.
Yeah,
he had to take a white card over it. Because if you're white, if I'm white and I see Synchronized Strike and not a white card, boom! Like green-white Synchronized Strike is like a very, very good deck. Like Synchronized Strike is one of those cards that it beats you and there was nothing you could have done. Like if your opponent had a decent draw on Synchronized Strike, like no reasonable line from you was going to beat that.
Oh, especially with exert creatures. They just because you just get them twice and they're just up the curve when you have to exert them.
Right. And if I'm being totally honest, this was I can't say how big of a factor, but this was definitely a factor in why I moved in on Synchronized Strike the way I did in our draft against PGO. When you're drafting, this is a tip for the kids at home. When you're drafting against players who are significantly better than you, you don't want to take Warfire Javelinier and set yourself up for red-black control and play long, grindy games against skilled players. That's great for getting good at Magic, but if you want to chalk up W's, you deny them turns of the game in which to outplay you. All right, it sounds like our players are ready. So first up, we have LSV and Dave. Let's do it. Oh, we're gonna I'm sorry. We're gonna pay some bills, and then we have some Magic for you.
Yeah, I'm gonna be tagging out here. So everyone, thank you for tuning in. This was a lot of fun, and I'm looking forward to watching these matches.
Looking for a challenge? Magic Online offers monthly limited and constructed events, which lead to the yearly Magic Online Championship. Download Magic Online at mtgo.com and start earning the points you need to enter.
Grand Prix events offer great experiences for players of all skill levels. These Magic celebrations are headlined by 2-day open tournaments with pro players, feature top artist signings, and host a wide range of side events. Find an upcoming Grand Prix event near you at magic.wizards.com/Grand Prix.
Want to play in the next Pro Tour? Qualifiers are happening this weekend on Magic Online. For more information, visit mtgo.com.